Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Ryan, this is Grant, and this is episode 8 of Grant, Teach Me Something. This is the first episode of the new year. Pretty exciting, took 2 weeks off.
I'm pumped.
What are you going to teach me and the folks at home today?
Well, you know, being the beginning of the year, today is a really good time to start talking about our year planning and how we're going to figure out what we want. Ultimately, what are our ultimate goals and how are we going to get there through what we do this year? So now's a really good time. If you guys are sitting down, you know, a lot of us as real estate investors, we don't respect the business as a business as much. We think of ourselves as real estate investors, but we're running a business and we need to run it accordingly. Mm-hmm. Well, what it comes down to at the end of the day is that we all want to retire, right? Like that's why we're in real estate. We're going to make enough money to retire. I doubt that there's anybody out there that's like, I got into real estate because I want to work till I'm 90. Like that's not what we're shooting for.
So when you say retire, you mean like go golfing every day like you already do?
I mean, yes. Well, you know, a little bit of that.
Oh yeah, by the way, roll tide.
Yeah, so when I mean retire, that's going to be a different definition to everybody, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today is what does retirement mean to you? But what we want to do is we want to jump in and we want to say, what do we want our life to look like at retirement? And then we're going to back into the deal. We're going to kind of back out of that and figure out what that means is how many houses that we need to buy this year and what that means how many houses we need to buy this quarter.
Before we go too far, do you think it'd be beneficial to define retirement?
Yeah, I think so. I think that that's one of those things. So to me, my definition of retirement is that I want to be able to retire, but not necessarily going to retire. And that means that I'm going to make X amount of dollars per month in perpetuity going forward for however long that needs to be. So if we break that down, and this is where I want to start getting people involved to really help out your planning, is what does that look like for you? What does it look like? At what point in time are you going to roll over in bed and either have not set an alarm or turn your alarm off because you're like, you know what, like I'm making enough money. I don't need to work.
I would say now is a good time to throw out there that what your definition of retirement, it has nothing to do with age. It all has to do with finances. Mm-hmm. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm sure there's a large part of the population, maybe not as real estate investors, but outside of this little niche, that retirement is 60 years old. Yeah. Oh, wait, the age of retirement is now 65 years old because back in the day, you had the pensions and what. Nowadays, I don't think pensions exist anymore, but so anyway, we're not talking about age, we're talking about financial security.
We're talking about financial security. And for me, you know, that does go hand in hand because like I do have an age in mind. Like I want to retire at 40. I want to be able to retire at 40. At 40 years old, I want to have that ability to sit down and say, you know what, I'm not going to get up anymore. Ever. Just going to lay in bed.
You're not going to get out of bed. I'm not doing it.
Go away. I'm 40. I can't do it. My arthritis.
40?
No, but what I'm saying is that I do have that age, but I wanted to define what money that means to me at that point in time. So we're going to get into that, okay? I'm going to start a little bit earlier than this. I'm going to back out a little bit, and I want to kind of pose something to you guys that are watching, and I'm going to read off a couple of descriptions of people, okay? And I want you to identify yourself as which bucket do you fall under on these two descriptions. And I'm gonna tie back to this here later, so that's why I want to have you start thinking about it now. So I'm going to start with something that seems like it's off topic, but it's not, I promise. Then we're going to go into the money making and the finances and all that kind of stuff and what we're going to do. Then I'm going to explain how that ties all together. So for those of you watching right now, I want you to listen to these two descriptions. And now these descriptions are based off of a book called Traction that I love, that I'm restructuring my whole business is based around. But these are two people that you will likely fall under. So person A, are you the person that is the strategic thinker? Do you have a lot of ideas? Do you always see the big picture? Do you have a pulse on your industry? Do you connect the dots? Are you the person that researches, develops new products and ideas? You're typically going to be the founding entrepreneur of everything. You're going to operate more on emotion. You probably have ADD. You're great with the big relationships, the culture of the organization, the solving of the big, ugly problems, but you don't want to mess around with the little ones. You see things that other people can't, and you create and hold the company vision. You're great at closing the big deals. Does that identify with you? Are you that person? If that describes you to a T, comment right now. Say, I'm that person, okay? That person we're calling is visionary. That's a visionary. The other role that you will likely be in starting a organization, are you the glue for the organization? Do you hold everything together? Are you the person that beats the drum and provides the cadence for the organization? Are you accountable for the P&L results? You execute the business plan, you hold the leadership team accountable, you're the steady force in the organization, you create the clarity, the communication, the consistency, you operate more on logic typically, you're the one that's going to drive the results, you force the resolution of things, you are the focus, you are the team unity, you are the prioritization and the follow through. Is that you? Okay? So you're typically going to be one of those other people. The first one is a visionary. If you are the second one, you are an integrator. That's where you fall into play. Okay?
Now, real quick, is there a right or wrong, better or worse
Absolutely.
answer to that?
Absolutely not. I say absolutely. Absolutely, yes. You are wrong if you...
If you're not what I am, then you're wrong.
There is absolutely not a right and wrong. What there is absolutely wrong is not knowing which one you fall under and figuring out how to work within those means.
So, just out of curiosity, which one are you?
I'm a textbook visionary. That's me, all the way.
Bucket A.
But yeah, I'm bucket A.
You know, it's funny about that because I did a lot of soul searching the past year and a half, 2 years, because in my mind, and I think what society tells us is person A is that's the guy you want to be, the guy, the gal, the person, whatever. That's who you want to be. And it almost self-consciousness of like, I felt kind of like, because hearing that, I'm like, I'm a B.
You know what's funny though?
I'm glue.
You know what the
And
cool
if
thing?
and you know me well enough to go, yeah, you're probably glue.
No, you're absolutely the integrator.
Yeah.
You are the integrator textbook. And here's the funny thing though, is that, and I'm glad that we have both versions up here because me, I'm a textbook visionary and I say, well, what good am I? What good am I in the organization?
And I'm like, man, I wish I could come up with shit that works.
So this is why I think it's really important to bring this up when we're starting to talk about business planning and starting to talk about starting your 2018 in the right direction is because we have a tendency to undervalue what we're good at. We have a tendency to undervalue the things that we're good at and we look at the stuff that we're not good at and we say, man, it's really hard to be good at that. Therefore, I suck because I'm not good at that, right? I'm bringing these things up because if you want to get to a position where you're retiring when you want, you need to recognize that you're either a visionary or an integrator. Now, the cool thing about this is, as an integrator, if you're an integrator, you're in the minority. Only about 50% of the companies that exist have a visionary on board. If you're an integrator, you have the skills that not everybody has, and that's actually more powerful because an integrator can run a business without a visionary can't run a business without an integrator.
You hear that, people? You need me.
You do. So why I'm saying this is if you are a visionary, if you are bucket A, you need to actively be searching for your integrator. You need to actively be searching for the person who's going to put your business plan into play and actually make that stuff happen on a consistent basis. And don't feel bad if you're the visionary because integrators think that the visionary is the one that's hard to be, right? And it is. You're the entrepreneur. You're typically going to be the founder, the CEO, the whatever. The integrator is going to be the COO, the chief operating officer. They're going to be, you know, the president, something like that. So work with each other to get there. The reason why I'm bringing these things up is, again, as we plan 2018, as we plan for our future, as we plan for our retirement, to get there, it's going to take structure, and it's going to take discipline, and it's going to take, not guidance, but guidance, focus. You need to know where you're going, okay? So, again, if you're a visionary, comment that you're a visionary. If you're an integrator, comment that you're an integrator. These are great opportunities to network. You may find your integrator in this comment section. You may find your visionary in this comment section. Start a conversation with whoever is your opposite and see if y'all share some goals and if you want to work together, okay? If you have your visionary and your integrator, that's awesome too. But now let's skip over and now let's start talking about money. Let's start talking about numbers. What does retirement mean to you, okay? So
Rich.
Ryan, how many years from now do you want to retire? To be able to retire, realistically?
I mean, I think the age of 40 is an amazing number, but I know how I am as far as when I get into something. Like, I don't see myself golfing. I don't see myself hunting. I don't see myself backpacking. I see myself going, ooh, let's do some more stuff.
Yeah.
That said, if you give me the ability to just lay in bed and do nothing, I could see the appeal in that. And just because I would have my own TV show, 600-pound man on the couch that can't move. But But I mean, 45. Let's just say
Okay.
45
Okay.
because I'm a little bit closer to 40 than you are, and that'll give me 8 years.
So how many? Okay, so that's 8 years away, okay?
8
So
years
here's
is the
something
answer.
that I want you guys to do. If you're watching this stream right now, I want you to commit to something. I want you to commit to how many years away you want to retire. So your number would be 8. My number is 10. In the next 10 years, I want to be able to retire. So go ahead and commit to that. Type your number in on this side. Now, what we want to think about next is we want to think about how much money do you need to be making every month to, and actually before I go there, I do want to point out, the integrator will typically want to work till they're 60. You know, there are people who have that drive, and that's why I'm saying be able to retire. That's why I'm saying that I'm not saying you are going to retire. You are going to be able to retire in X amount of years, because many of us will keep working. I'm going to hit 40. I will probably get, well, I take that back. I won't. I'm going to play golf and go hunting. But a lot of us will be able to retire, but continue to work, and that's okay. We're looking for that be able to retire number.
I changed my mind. I'd probably be sitting at a blackjack table every single day.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So you need enough money to fund
lose all of it every day.
Okay, so now my number is 10. In 10 years, I want to be able to retire. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to comment with a calculator, okay, on this thread right now.
Oh no. You just put out your
I
personal
put out my personal Facebook. I know.
Ooh, look at you.
Y'all can thank Ryan for making me open my doors in my personal Facebook. I've always made that very separate personal one.
Tagged.
Anyway, so yeah, I've just put a calculator into that field. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think about two things. I want you to think about what is the dollar amount that you need to have coming in every month to be able to retire. What's that dollar amount to you, okay? And you just commented the number of years I want you to commit to. I want you to comment the number of dollars that you want coming in every month, because today is a day of commitment. Today is a day to decide what we're going to be doing.
So you're
and
talking
putting
about
it
like
on paper.
cash flow in the
cash
terms
flow,
of
net,
being able
net
to
money coming in
on
every month.
Once I retire, I have the ability to get a check of X amount of dollars.
Right, exactly. What do you want your retirement salary to look like?
10 grand a month.
Okay, cool. So my number is 15. My number is I want $15,000 every month, and that's kind of my bare minimum. Like I'll be willing to retire at 15.
Mine's 1550. Mr. One Up. Anyway, go ahead.
So okay, so we'll go off of my number of 1560 of what I want to retire. So if I put in $15,000 into the today amount of that calculator that I just posted, it is going to default to putting the annual inflation rate of 3%, but I'm going to encourage you to put an annual inflation rate of 4% in there.
Is it 4%? I thought it was always 6%.
Well, it depends on what the Fed is.
I'm not an economist.
The higher number you put in there, the more conservative you're being about this, right? So let's split the difference. Let's go ahead and split that. Let's say 5. Okay, let's say that we're going to shoot for a 5% annual inflation over this next however many years you just committed to. So I want to retire in 10 years. I want to be making $15,000 a month, and I'm going to say that means we've got a 5% inflation rate every year for the next 10 years.
Right.
Hit calculate. Where it says required amount, there's two fields. One says reduced amount, that says what would $15,000 in 10 years be, what would your current $15,000 be worth in 10 years? And then there's a required amount that says in 10 years, the buying power equivalent of today's $15,000 at 5% inflation would be just over $24,000 a month. Does that make sense? So if I have buying power of $15,000 a month today, well, we know that $15,000 today is going to be worth less in the future, right?
So what you're saying is for tomorrow, you actually need the 24,000.
Right. In 10 years, whatever your committed time was, whatever your I want to retire in this many years, that's the amount of years you're going to put in there. At that point in time, to have the same amount of buying power with cash that you have today, you will need whatever it says in that required amount field.
Every month.
Every month.
Okay.
So today...
And that's in addition to whatever you want to spend right now. That's just to save, or we're not even there?
That's how much cash flow you need coming in.
Okay.
That is your check. That's your retirement check. That's your salary that you're getting. So I said, in order for me to retire, I want $15,000 a month of a salary, of my retirement income. I don't have to do squat. I'm getting $15,000 a month. Well, that's $15,000 a month using today's buying power of $15,000 a month.
It's all coming back to me because for a minute there, we were talking about retirement, we're talking about this. I'm thinking, and I forget that we're in real estate for a minute. And I'm thinking, oh, I need a bank account that I need to put $24,000 in for the next 30 years, 10 years, and then I can draw from that. I'm an idiot. I totally forgot about, oh yeah, we do real estate here,
right.
And we have cash flow.
Exactly. That's what we're pushing for.
Yeah.
What we're going to figure out is how many houses do you need to buy to meet your cash flow
requirement. That makes more sense that we do real estate, but yeah.
Okay,
but
so
my brain literally, but I get
it. I'm glad that you had that.
I think it's a trap because again, going back to what I was saying earlier, you're always talking about retirement. I got to have my pension fund. You know, I snuck a peek at my dad's mail the other day, and I was like, oh, that's good, but
it's funny because the people.
But again, my point is they have a lump sum of a bank account that they draw from, and yours is like, that's a good idea, but no, let's just have cash flow.
I would rather just have cash flow coming in every time, right? And it's also interesting, I mean, and let me just take a second to step back and give you guys some rah-rah here. And the fact that with real estate, we have such an ability to, one of the, oh gosh, I forget who it is. It's one of the big retirement planning companies. No, like the regular, like the brokerages, like not E-Trade, but whoever, like an actual, like, you know what I mean, one of those kinds of guys.
Merrill Lynch.
Merrill Lynch, that's who it was, thank you. Released a statement saying, if you're 30 and you have half of 1 year's salary put away in your 401k, you're on track for retirement, okay? And I look at that and I say, I was a millionaire at 30. And I started on I lived in a 1,000 square foot, 3-bedroom house that had gang signs tagged on the front of it, right? Like that's where I came from.
It was a lovely home.
It was a lovely home. It was a home full of love. It really was. My parents were phenomenal parents. But we got a phone call a lot as children. Hey,
I was talking about the home you live in most recently.
My new home is very nice, right?
No, the one right before that.
Oh yeah, that one too. Well, that one was my first house. Anyway, what I'm getting at here is that Merrill Lynch is looking at things the way that your brain initially thought to go to it. How retirement works, how we've been trained, put your money in your 401k, put your money in your 401k, blah, 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 blah. Through these methods, through the things that you're going to be learning through the Grant Teach Me Somethings, through the Propelio Academy, through the CreativeCashFlow.com Academy, that's the kind of stuff that makes you a millionaire in 5 years. I've got people who are of retirement age that are like, oh yeah, man, I got 1.7 in my retirement account. And you're like, man, that's cool. Like I've still got 40 years left and I'm there already. So that's what we're looking at here.
So you're one of those guys.
Well, I mean, I didn't say it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not that guy.
Right.
Anyway, so let's get back on track here. I just wanted to pump you guys up that you're in the right business. You're looking at the right, if you want to retire, real estate gets you there. We're getting there through cash flow. That's what we want, is we want cash flow coming in on a consistent basis.
So to get back on the rails,
yes.
How do we get there?
So how do we get there? So I said I want $15,000 a month. That's with me thinking about what $15,000 a month could buy me today.
Right.
In 10 years, $15,000 won't be able to buy that same amount of stuff. So I go to that calculator, which Ryan pinned at the top for you if you're just joining us. Go to that calculator, put in your amount that you want every month, put in the inflation rate of 5, we're going to be a little bit conservative, and we're putting in the number of years until you want retirement. That required amount that comes up after you calculate, that's the amount we're shooting for.
And I will say, from kudos to Grant, and that's why he's here doing these Grant Teach Me Somethings, is because I think a lot of us, I won't say a lot, me, myself, you're like, oh, in the future, I need X amount of dollars. Oh, cool, yeah, I would like to have $10,000. And you're subtly aware of, yes, there's inflation. Yes, I went to college. Yes, I took economics classes. I am aware of inflation. I know that kind of concept. And I know I need to have more money than I do now. But just to actually go in there and actually know what that number is,
right?
Like that's a step further than I would ever even think about doing.
And that's something that's really important for us to know because, like you said, we don't factor that in. This is why focus is so important for us, is because we need to consider real factors.
Well,
right?
I mean, just the biggest takeaway so far is just go to the calculator and go, what do you want and know what that number is.
Right.
Actually, it's like the whole working out thing, because clearly I do that. But the first thing a trainer will do is like, hey, make sure you keep notes.
Right.
What
What gets measured gets improved.
Exactly.
Right. What gets measured gets improved. So let's look back at these numbers here. So we're going off of my numbers. You guys, I want you to be writing your own numbers. Okay. So what is your required amount in your time frame? So in 10 years, I need to be making $24,000. I'm going to bump that up. I need to be making $25,000 a month to have the same buying power as 15 would today. What does that mean for us? Okay, so let's move over to the whiteboard, and we're going to start kind of building some stuff out for us to think about.
And while we transition, I will say, Jawad, I am not sure how much a Poncho's franchise costs.
Is that a question? How
Well,
much
he
does a
was
Poncho's
asking how many
franchise?
Ponchos does. Hopefully, he's talking about the franchises and not actually dinners. For that. But he was
Oh my
asking
God.
how many.
You know what's
Ponchos.
funny though is there's actually a
Raise the flag.
there's an economic theory behind, and I can't remember which one it is, but I think it's called the McDonald's principle, and it actually measures economics based upon how many Big Macs you can buy with that dollar or something like that. And it's like a legit economic. It's either Taco Bell or McDonald's or something like that. So you're not too far off by asking about how many Poncho's dinners you can get with this dog. Anyway, okay, so here we are. We have a number, okay? So can you write down 10 years for me? We're going to go off of my numbers here so that I've got just some examples to show you guys. So I want to retire in 10 years. In 10 years, and go ahead and write down $25,000. I'm having him write it because y'all have probably seen my handwriting. It's awful. So we want $25,000 a month. Now, when we're talking about cash flow, okay, I am a big proponent of seller financing. Anybody that knows me knows that I like seller financing over rentals. I don't think that rentals give you the cash flow that everybody thinks they give you, but they do have their place, and we're going to get into that because part of your retirement plan is going to have to include rentals of some sort, whether that's a apartment complex or single family or whatever. You do kind of need those things because in seller financing, when you sell a seller financing property, you're either an integrator or a visionary. Those are the words.
Not innovator?
Integrator. Integrator.
That's this one.
No. Oh, well, okay. If you're
Innovator.
innovator / visionary, that's fine. And then integrator. The only reason I'm pointing that is that I am going off of the book Traction, so if you are reading in that book, these will use the same phrases for you. Man, and now I lost my train of thought of what we were talking
I'm sorry.
about. I'm sorry too. Anyway, cash flow. Yes. So when you sell a property with seller financing, you're selling it and you're holding the mortgage for somebody, okay? And that mortgage is probably going to be a 30-year mortgage. So when you're selling these properties, you've got income coming for the next 30 years, and that's it. Now, if you need your retirement to last more than 30 years, if I'm retiring at 40, well, yeah, I need money to keep coming in past 70, okay? I hope to live past 70. I also hope to be able to pass something down to my kid or my kids if we have more or whatever that is as part of that legacy, right? To make sure that they're taken care of. So rentals are going to play a part of that. I'm going to get there in just a second. But for now, what we're going to do when we're coming up with these numbers is we're going to run using seller financing. And we're going to say we're going to sell a seller financed properties to gain this cash flow.
So disclaimer, what we're talking about is seller finance, owner finance, not necessarily rentals.
Right, we're going to get to rentals. Rentals are going to be part of this.
Got it. Okay.
But right now, when we're starting, we're going to start off with seller financing. One big reason with this is that with seller financing, your cash flow is actual cash flow. Okay, if you are paying a mortgage to own this property, and let's say that you're paying that bank $400 a month, but then you're turning around and you're selling it to somebody for $750 a month. Well, at that point in time, they pay you $750, you pay your bank $400, you've made $350 in the middle, and if their toilet breaks or whatever, that doesn't matter to you. If you have a mortgage, I want you to mentally raise your hand if you have a mortgage on your property. You have a mortgage on your property, okay. Keep your hand raised if you've ever called that mortgage company and told them that your toilet was leaking, or that you had a broken back door, or that your AC was broken. Right? The mortgage company doesn't care. They get paid on the first, and if they don't, they foreclose on you. That's why we want to become the mortgage, because we don't care about the repairs. We don't care about taxes and insurance. That's all on the buyer. That's their responsibility. When we're looking at cash flow numbers, whatever our cash flow number is, that's our cash flow number, and we can count on that. Whereas with a rental, you may be having a bank note of $400 and a rental of $900, so you've got a $500 cash flow, but an AC unit goes out and costs you $6,000, and your cash flow for an entire year is shot. Okay? That's why we're not counting rentals just yet, but we are going to pepper those in there, so bear with me. So,
wait, real quick, just to
please go
just
ahead.
to completely stop your train of thought. If you have questions, drop them in there. We will get to them here shortly. But the biggest thing about these Grant Teach Me Somethings, everything we do here at Propelio, I do a lot of hashtag join the conversation.
Yeah.
Because we want it to be a dialogue. We want it to be, you actually have questions, and hopefully we have answers. If not, we can get those answers. So if you have questions, join in. If you haven't liked it already, throw a bunch of likes in there. If you haven't shared already, please share it. That's what we're trying to do here at Propelio. So again, if you have questions, you have comments, witty things like ponchos, throw them in there, and then Daniel here in a little bit will shoot them out for us.
All right, so
sorry to break your.
No, please. I love that kind of stuff. It's important everybody knows. I mean, Propelio is really putting a good product in front of you guys by bringing Creative Cash Flow in.
Okay. Plug machine.
Plug machine here. Okay, so what we're going to do is my average owner-financed mortgage, owner-financed mortgage gets about $350 a month. So that's what we're going to count on is $350 a month. So we're going to. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide $25,000 by $350. Okay? So what that means...
And you said this was the average...
Average cash flow.
And I apologize for writing small.
So that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to take your, what is it called, the required amount, and I want you to divide that by 350, okay? So that is, for me, 72 houses. That means that 25 divided by 350 is 71 something, so I'm going to go with 72. I need to have 72 cash flowing properties in 10 years, bringing me in money every month in order for me to be able to retire. Okay?
So it's like that's March for you?
Yeah, right. That's a decent December. Yeah. So the next step is you're gonna divide that out by whatever your number was. How many years do you want? Like mine was 10. I want to be able to retire in 10 years, so we're going to divide that by the number of years. So we've got our number needed homes. We're going to divide that by number of years.
You said 10 years?
Mine is 10, yeah. So we're going to divide it by 10. And obviously that's 7.2 houses per year that I need to buy.
But you can't buy 7.2, so
right.
We'll say 8.
Yeah, so we'll say 8. 7 or 8 houses per year that I need to buy to be on track to retiring when I want.
And if you're doing this full time, that's nothing.
That is nothing. And we're going to up this number here in just a second, so don't get too excited because I'm going to start crashing that number down on you. So what I want you to do right now as you're watching, comment how many houses per year do you need? How many houses per year do you need to retire when you want?
And real quick, I see this, and I know you're about to, crash the house on us and say, no, it's actually more than that, but whatever. At these numbers, we're talking as an individual.
Right.
You could easily have a partnership and have 20, because, 10 houses, 20 houses a year is nothing if you're doing this full time.
My crap years, I buy 20 houses. That's like a bad year for me is to buy 20 houses, right? So this is nothing. If you guys are trying to shoot for retirement, this is why I'm talking about this, is because we need to train ourselves to live in an annual and a 90-day world. Further, I want you to divide that number by 4, okay? Now, obviously, for me, that's 2. That means that this quarter, by the end of March, I need to have bought 2 houses. I have 3 months to buy 2 houses. That is a very, very achievable goal. We want to live in 90-day worlds. We want to structure our business to get us to our end goal using what we need to buy right now. So I want you to comment, how many houses per year do you need to buy? I think that that's a really good thing for us to know.
And before again, I just want to strike home this, again, I hate being the moto rah-rah guy, but looking at this, I think a lot of people getting into the industry, or even if they've been in it a couple years, or they're like, man, when is this ever going to end? if you break it down into quarterly, you're breaking it down into annually, even if you're a full-time wholesaler,
right,
securing 2 properties for yourself per quarter is again nothing.
Right.
And if you just think in those terms,
I know.
And stop trying to do the, hey, let's make $200,000 to $500,000 a year doing wholesaling. Hold 1 or 2 a quarter.
Exactly.
Is nothing.
Because this is what we're talking about. Thank you for pointing that out. These 2 houses are 2 houses that I'm going to keep as cash flow, right? Wholesalers, y'all are working, man. You're working a job. And you're making a lot of money in it, probably, hopefully, maybe. But it's a job. If you want to go on vacation, you stop making money, right? What we're shooting for here is to keep a couple of properties a month. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to keep this number in mind and say, okay, cool, this is very achievable. This is something that we can do. 2 houses this quarter is going to end up getting me the ultimate goal of what I'm looking for. But now I want to kind of step back a little bit, okay? And just like we were looking at inflation as part of the factor of what's going to happen to us in 10 years, we need to look at a couple of other factors. So one of those factors is, for my goals to be met, I need 72 homes cash flowing for me. That's a pretty decent portfolio, I guess. That is going to require staff. That is going to require somebody dealing with stuff for you, okay? Now, the cool thing is, when you are doing owner financing, you get to do things like charge a servicing fee, $35, $50 a month. Now, as you're getting started, I recommend using a third-party loan servicer. August REI is somebody here in Dallas. We've got Prime Loan Servicing down in Houston that does a good job. Prime Loan Servicing is able to report to 2 credit bureaus, which is nice because that helps people refinance and cash you out ultimately. And then there's Evergreen up in Washington or something like that. So those are 3 loan servicers that can keep the servicing side off, which is taking payments, making payments, all that kind of stuff, doing foreclosures, that kind of stuff. As you're getting started, you can't afford to have a staff. Use a third-party loan servicer to get that going. But as you start passing into these numbers here, if you need to have maybe a $10 an hour employee working 40 hours a week, okay, so that's $400 a week, $1,600 a month to employ this person, and I'm not referring to taxes and stuff, let's bump that up to $2,000, and we divide that by, let's say, $40. The quick and dirty of it is you need 50 properties before just the servicing fee alone will pay for you to have somebody on staff full-time, okay?
So I need 50 just to cover that person?
I need 50 houses making with a $40 servicing fee, and that will cover a staff member for you without touching your cash flow. That's going to be on top of everything that's already there. You'll have a staff member paid for out of your portfolio by adding that cost onto your homes. The cool thing about this is, I'll tell you right now, it doesn't take a staff member 40 hours a week, 4 weeks of a month to service your note.
So are you saying I need 50 plus 72
No.
to meet your goals?
I'm saying that within the 72, if I'm charging $40 a property for servicing and I have 72 houses, I only needed 50 to handle getting an employee.
Okay, so what you're saying is, but say you're early in the years, aren't you at a negative because you don't have 72 yet?
Which is why I recommend using a third-party loan servicer.
Got it.
So here's where it comes down. What I'm saying is that if you're going to charge $40 per house for your servicing fee, until you reach 50 houses in your portfolio, you should be using a third-party loan servicer. Does that make better sense that way, saying it like that?
Yeah.
So until you hit that 50 mark in your loan in your portfolio, you should be using a loan servicer. And I know people with a lot higher numbers in their portfolio that are still using third-party loan servicers. There's nothing wrong with that. I have chosen to staff up. Okay, so that's one of the things, because like I said, it doesn't take a full month of a full-time employee to service your note. Take the payment, make the payment, do notices, that kind of stuff. What that allows you to do is now you've got a staff member being paid for from your portfolio servicing who can run some marketing for you, who can be on the phones, who can do a lot of stuff for you. Okay? So Daniel, do we have some questions to answer just yet?
Yeah, I have a question here from Henry, and he asks, is that 72 homes number variable? I assume notes will come due or foreclose over the years. Will you have to continue to buy over the years?
Yes, that's a great question, and that's actually the next step that we're getting into, so I'm glad to have that segue there. Thanks, Henry. This 72 number, now, as normal, like I can go get a mortgage home buyer kind of home buyers. We anticipate that people are going to sell their property in 5 to 8 years, refinance within 5 to 8 years. I'll tell you right now, that's not typically how it works with owner financed properties. It's actually surprising, but in owner financed properties, those buyers typically stay in there for 20 or 30 years. We lose about 5% per year to a refinance or a selling of the note or whatever that might be, or a selling of their property, whatever that might be. There's about 5% of that, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your annual number and add 5% to that, which being 8 is not really gonna work.
Well, 5%, if this was actually 7.2, 8 already...
That already basically covers you, right?
Right.
So you may want to bump that up a full house a year
Okay, let's call it...
if you want.
Let's call it 9.
Let's call it 9.
Still, 9, I mean...
It's
and then
2, and one of those quarters you need to buy another house.
Right.
You know?
2 for 3 of them, and then...
3 for one of them. Yeah.
2 per quarter times 3, and then on one of the quarters, you need... Whatever.
You'll buy.
I can't write. You know what? Hush.
I won't. I can't. It's impossible.
You know?
So that's a really good question. So you do need to account for that, okay? That's one of the things that we're going to account for. That's one of, like I said, we're going to start making this number go up from here. So that's one of the reasons we need that number to go up. Now, we already got one employee taken care of in the first 50 homes of our portfolio. We have 72, so that's no big deal, right? We've got one of our employees taken care of already out of that servicing fee. Actually, do we have another question before we move on? Let's hit.
Yeah, I have a question here from Chris Chavez. He says, who puts the owner finance paperwork together?
So getting your owner finance paperwork together is going to be a really important part of doing this. That's one of the things that I encourage you to keep watching the Grant Teach Me Somethings, CreativeCashFlow.com Academy, going through the Propelio Academy. Those are all things that are going to be talked about in that kind of stuff, and we will talk about those. Getting a good attorney is paramount. Having a good attorney on your side to do these kinds of things for you, you have to have that because owner financing does have a lot of places that you can trip up. That's not the topic we're necessarily talking about today because today I want to focus more on the big picture of our retirement, and I could just go on rabbit hole after rabbit hole on that. But I will say, Matt Aycock, that's a good guy to reach out to. He floats around on these things too. He knows what's going on with owner financing. Scott Horn knows what's going on with owner financing. Those are 2 Texas people, Galen Lonergan Rogers here in Dallas. Those are 3 Texas people that would be good for you, but there's going to be a lot of state-specific stuff that goes along with that. But you need to go to your RIAs, you need to network with people, figure out who else is doing owner financing and who's the attorney that they're using to get this stuff done, and that's how you get all that paperwork handled up. We have one more question coming in.
So I got a question here from Thomas. He says, that 5% is from the cash flow, correct? You'd still get a lump sum from a refi or similar situation?
That 5% is of the portfolio that you've purchased. 5% of those homes are going to refinance or sell. The cool thing, what he's alluding to there, is that if I bought a house and I owe $70,000 on it, and I sell it to somebody and they owe me $90,000 on it, and then they refinance, I got a check in the mail for 20 grand. That is a cool situation. Same thing, if I bought a house and I owe 70 on it and I sell it to them with owner financing and they owe me 90 on it and they sell the property, I got a check for 20 grand. So that is when they do sell and they do refinance, even though, okay, it takes away from your monthly cash flow number, you get a nice chunk of money in the mail. A couple of months ago, or maybe it was last month, I got a check in the mail that I didn't expect to come for $62,000. That's a cool month, right? You just like show into the office like, oh, what's this check for? And you open it, $62,000. Like, oh, sweet, you know. And I wasn't even.
Today.
Literally, I'm just like, well, looks like I did my work for today. I get a big check like that. I take the day off. That's what I do.
But I'll just say real quick though, if we bump that 5%, I know we're just doing easy, stupid math. 9 times 10, now we're at 90.
Right.
So you do need to calculate into the overall number, right?
It does,
okay.
yeah. So we need to go back up the river in saying that. Okay, so if I want to buy 90 houses or 9 houses a year, I need 90 houses total
for your. And this,
in
again,
10 years.
This is for your.
This is for me. I want you guys to be running your numbers off of your commitments. How many years do you want to retire? What kind of money? And that's everything that we've led up to into this point. What's another question we got?
So I have another question here from Chris Chavez, and he asks, what size town population wise would be good to retire in real estate investing? So big town, small town, what's the best opportunity for a real estate investor to retire?
So is the question, where should I be buying my portfolio in order to have this retirement?
It didn't get that deep,
Or
but
where should I
I'm
go
essentially,
retire?
I'm pretty sure
Yeah, it's like, if you're asking where you want to retire, I don't know where you want to retire. Go retire.
pretty
either-
much he's asking where should he be investing, small towns or big towns? Because if you're
Gotcha.
like trying to invest in San Francisco for cash flow,
Right.
you're probably not working it out
I
so
think
well.
that answer is it's what's your market, what's your niche. Because like someone like myself or you guys, we're going to be in that DFW market versus somebody like Corey Thompson. He's like, are you in Texas? Can I
Right.
get you in a day or two?
Yeah.
He'll buy anywhere, and it's just a matter of what your niche is.
Right. I
mean,
think that that's a very important thing to be considering, but that is part of your business plan, and that's what he's hitting on here. I can't tell you what your business plan is. Your business plan should include 3 individual things that are unique about you and that can separate you out. And maybe one of those is the Corey Thompson, I'll buy wherever the heck you are. I'm buying in DFW.
Right.
It doesn't matter. That's part of your business plan that you need to plan. What we're talking about here is ultimately, because, and let's talk about that for a second, because what that question entails, what you're asking, is too micro? Is that the word I'm looking for? Macro? Micro, I think. Anyway, what we're talking about is we want you to understand, if you want to retire off of real estate, what does that mean?
Right.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean, oh, I should buy in a neighborhood with a lot of people. It means in 10 years, I need to be making $25,000.
Yeah, and again, just to further rabbit hole is, and I don't remember which episode it was, but it was like know your niche. Alex Henson was in here a couple months ago, and he only buys in the hood. Like that's the only thing he goes for.
One of his 3 uniques.
That's his exactly. That's his unique. That's his niche.
Right.
You know, it's just you gotta know your niche.
Exactly. So business planning, that'll be that's another topic for another day. But again, if we're talking about retirement, we don't care what we're buying, where we're buying. We care how much money we want to make and in what amount of time, right? So now that we've kind of come back in here, we've said, okay, well, I need to buy 9 houses per year to account for houses that are going to be lost to a refinance or to a
And account for employees and servicing fees. And
I'm going to have 1 employee. Now I've got 90 houses. Well, to run a portfolio of 90 houses, how many employees do you feel like you need to run that portfolio? Do you need 1 employee? Do you need 2 employees? Do you need 3 employees? What does that look like for
Right.
you?
And you don't want to include yourself. I'm assuming you don't want to include yourself because the whole point is you want to retire and have somebody else run your company, right?
That's exactly right. So what we want to look at here, we got another question coming in. What we got, Daniel?
This is a little bit off topic, but you might want to just give a good, quick understanding of this. And this is, where does the money that you're buying these houses come from? But private lenders, question mark, question mark.
Right.
Because a lot of people are just nervous that they don't have the money to do this.
I hear you. Well, okay, so I gave you a little bit of rah-rah earlier. I like to stay away from rah-rah, but I'll give it to you again. When I started this business, I had no money. I was overdrafting my account constantly. I didn't know. My Google search of how to invest in real estate was, how can I invest in real estate without any money? And that's what led me into Subject to buying. When you buy with Subject to, it's basically taking over on payments. And as you go through the academy and go through these lessons, you'll understand why I don't ask you, or why I ask you not to say that to your sellers. But for us investors, talking to investors, you're taking over on payments. Somebody that's in trouble that might be facing foreclosure, you can take over on their payments and then turn around and sell the house for a higher payment. Typically, it's going to be about $350 more than you're having to pay. That's usually how it works. But there's also private money. I do a lot of stuff through private money. As a matter of fact, if you have money and you want it listed on the market, let me know. You know, that's how we handle a lot of this stuff. I know Daniel's big in private money as well. I mean, private money makes the world go around. So it doesn't matter how you acquire these properties. You acquire these properties somehow. Through Subject to, through private money, through funding them, through being able to get a bank loan, because banks will do commercial loans for you. You might be looking at something like 6.25% on a 15-year amort, but with a 5-year call on it or something like that. You know, commercial loans exist that you can wrap to do this. The strategy that we're talking about here, when I'm talking about owner financing with this, is ultimately called a wraparound mortgage. I don't care where your funding comes from to buy the house, because you can buy it in any other way. Any way you've ever heard about buying a house, you can use that to buy this house. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sell it for a higher payment, and that is a wraparound mortgage. You're giving it to somebody else. They're going to pay you $750 a month, and you're going to pay your debt of $400 a month and therefore in the middle, you're making $350. That's called a wraparound. I particularly like subject to purchasing because you don't have to have money to buy it. You need to have money to stay in there. You need to have money just in case this person stops paying you. You need to be able to pay them. But as you watch the Academy, as you watch these Grant Teach Me Somethings, you'll find all the different ways where you can leverage this buyer's money to do your deal for you.
And because we are talking about retirement, and I do see the comments, I'm going to scrap my plan. I only need about 2 houses cash flowing because I'm just going to hang out with Jawad in the Philippines, and I'm pretty sure I can live off $700 a month in the Philippines.
How many ponchos do they have in the Philippines?
I don't know, but ponchos.
Dude, you should start a ponchos in the Philippines. You know, the Philippines.
So in that case, I need 1,000 because I'll need to fly in every day ponchos.
For more ponchos.
But Jawad, save me a guest room.
So, okay, so yeah, with my numbers, and again, for those of you who are just joining us, I want you to commit to how many years from now you want to retire and how much money that means per month that you need in cash flow, and then go to the calculator that's pinned there and figure out what your required amount is going to be, and that's what we're shooting for. We've kind of backed down into this. Now, by coming back upstream, I know that I need 90 properties, and I'm evaluating the fact that by having 90 properties, I need to have staff in place. Well, I got one of my employees paid for through the first 50 properties. Well, through that next 40, that almost pays for another employee. But what we want to do at this point in time is we want to kind of look at it and say, all right, for me, I want to have, if I'm going to retire, I feel like to manage this portfolio without me ever having to touch it, I'm going to be paying 3 people to mess with that. Okay? That's kind of my thought. And this is where, again, it comes down to your business planning. I'm not going to tell you the answer to this. I want you to decide what you want done on this. I want 3 people.
Real quick, though, the 3 people, are they all at that bare minimum price? Because I know you're going to need to have a leader or a CEO type that can run the machine.
Right, exactly. So, excuse me, you look at, and that's where, exactly where we're going. You look at a $10 an hour employee, and that was, we're going to say $2,000 a month. Well, that's $24,000 a year, okay? In my mind, when I budget for what I'm looking for in retirement, I say I need to have available to me about $150,000 per year in staffing. That means I might have a couple of $50,000 employees, or a couple of $70,000 employees and one $20,000 employee, or one $80,000 employee and a couple of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for about $150,000 per year purely in staffing. All right? And if we want to get even more into that, you've got to start looking at office space, that kind of thing. So you might be talking about another $1,000 a month in office space to house these people. So you got another $12,000 a month, or $12,000 a year that you need to add into that. So we're talking about $162,000. Let's bump that up, make it an even number, and say $165,000. So I keep making you write over these. So what we want here, and we can actually erase most of this stuff at this point in time, but what we want is we want 90 houses. What I want, this is my numbers, 90 houses in 10 years.
You say, and then I'll just throw in a 5 just for fun.
Yeah, $165,000 is what we're going to say we want in staffing. So now we want to go back to our inflation calculator. $165,000 today, if we have inflation of 5% a year for the next 10 years, is really $270,000, $268 and some change. So in 10 years, I need my portfolio to be making $270, we're going to round up, $270,000 a year in 10 years. What I need to do now is I need to add that number to my annual income, right? Which if my monthly is 25, I'm going to multiply that by 12. I want 25 a month. So every year, that means I need $300,000 of income to say that I'm going to retire.
You said 300?
Yeah, 300. We're throwing a lot of numbers at you, but hey, retirement is about numbers. That's what we're looking for. We want to retire. We want to get this. So my income needs to be $300,000 a year, and then I need to pay for 3 staff members, which is going to be another $270,000 a year.
I thought it was 165.
Well, it is now, but in 10 years with inflation, it's going to be worth $270.
See, I wasn't listening.
So that means that we need $570,000 of annual income net in order to afford the goal that we're looking for, which is retirement. If I want $300,000 and I need to staff for $270,000 a year, that means I need $570,000 coming in off of pure cash flow every year in order to make that happen. So what do? We say 570, that's our annual income need. We're going to divide that by 12 to figure out, again, what's our monthly need? What are our monthly expenses, okay? For me, that number is $47,500. So I just want to make sure that everybody's following us here.
I'm not, because I'm sitting right next to you.
Right.
So I get that for you personally, you need $300,000 to a year to get your $15,000 a month.
Right.
Your office, you need $270 to do that, so that's $570 total annually to cover your retirement.
Right.
Okay, and then you said divide by, and that's when you lost me.
So this is my annual number to cover retirement, right? My number is that 300, which we found through here. And what I'd like to do is let's go ahead and we're going to erase basically everything here, and we're just going to write down the formula.
Are we still at 90 houses?
We're at 90 houses.
Okay.
That's our ultimate thing. But what we're going to do here is we're going to write the formula down so that you can kind of have a reference of what we're doing here. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to look at what is your desired monthly inflated income. Okay? So that's going to be our
24.
first. What's that?
Earlier, that was the 24 number, right?
Yeah, for me, yes. But we're just going to write the formula so that everybody can get their numbers here. So the first thing we need is we need our desired monthly income, accounting for inflation, which is what you get out of that calculator. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide that number.
So for you, you say 15 now, calculated, and that's like 24.
Right. So then we're going to divide this number by 350, because that is the average cash flow per property that you should be receiving off of an owner-financed deal. So we're going to divide our desired monthly income by 350, which is our typical cash flow, and find out what that number is. That number is going to be the number of properties that you need to be making your money. So this divided by this, your desired monthly divided by the 350 is the number of properties you need. Okay? So go ahead and put like number of properties right here.
Oh,
Number
I
of
was like, I don't
properties.
have a calculator, Grant.
Yeah. No, just literally put number of properties. So that's the number of properties that you need. Now, once we find our number of properties, we're going to divide that number by however many years you wanted to wait until retirement. Okay? So for me, that was 10. For you, it might be 6, might be 5, whatever. We're dividing that by the number of years to retirement. And what we're left with is the number of properties that we need to buy this year. Number of properties this year. Now, we will typically want to add 5% to that, so you might bump that up for your annual. And then if you divide that number by 4, that's your quarterly goal. That's how many houses you need to buy by the end of March. Okay? So that's what we're meeting with here. Now, what we've then done is we've said, for me, counting this all in and going back upstream, I divided it, or I gave the 5% number, and I went back up and I said, well, if I'm adding 5%, that changed my number from 8 to 9, so now my number of properties turned into 90. Okay? With that number of properties, you might need staffing. Now, if your number of properties is 12, you might not need staffing, and this is why I'm not including it in this calculation right here. But if your number of properties like mine is 90, I want staff. I want staff to handle that for me. So what I did is I said, I am going to say that I need $150,000 worth of staffing to handle 90 properties a month. Okay? And then went back to the calculator, put $150,000. Oh, I think I put 165 in here. So if I put $150,000, 165 to count in for office space.
Roof, yeah.
And same thing, number of years and inflation of 5%. For me, that gets $270,000 more. So that's where this number comes in. For staffing and office space, I need $270,000 per year coming in. Well, if I'm making $24,000 a month, what's that times 12? It's basically $300,000. So now what we're left with is in 10 years, in whatever number of years you wanted to retire, the number that you need annually is these two numbers put together. $570,000 annually.
And then, because I like to jump the gun, that?
It's actually very close. It's that divided by 12. Okay, so your annual number, whatever your new annual number is, so close. Because that's the next step. Whatever your annual number is, you're going to divide that by 12 because we need to know how much money per month.
Whoops.
How much money per month do we need to be making in order to hit our annual goal that we just figured out? Okay. So we're going to divide that by 12. So for me, that number is 570 divided by 12. Every month, I would need to be making $47,500.
$47,500?
Uh-huh. That is the number you're going to divide again by 350. Okay, we're coming all, and this is our last step. So bear with me here. We're at our goal.
Math.
We're at our goal now.
So 47,500
$47,500 divided by 350 because 350 is how much each property will be making you.
But do you take into account the inflation of the 350, or is this number?
I'm not.
Oh, because
that's
it's a
actually going to
fixed-
go in
it's a
my
fixed
favor
rate?
anyway.
Is it a fixed rate?
And it's fixed.
Okay.
So what that leaves me with is I actually need 136 properties in my portfolio to make myself retire in 10 years. Okay?
And then you divide
And
that
then you
by
can do that
10.
same thing that you did right here. Now you're just starting. Now you have your number of properties. You're going to divide that by your years to retire. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's 10. So I basically need 14 properties a year. And then I divide 14 by 4. And I need 3.5 houses this quarter in order to retire. So we just did a lot of math. We had a lot of formula up here. But it kind of got intimidating until you start looking at this again. And you say, well, heck, now this just means I need to buy a house a month.
Yeah, because, I mean, again, divide that, and just stupid math, divide that by 10, 14 properties a year.
Uh-huh.
Basically, little over one a month. That's
Right.
four to five a quarter.
Right.
Or no, yes.
Yeah. It's per quarter. It's like 4.5 or something.
Yeah,
3.5. 3.5.
Okay, so 4 a quarter. Mm-hmm. That's 16. Well, yeah. So you hit your goal one month, you don't hit your goal the next month, and you could retire in 10 years.
Right.
Wow.
But the cool thing is,
But again, though, circling back, that's still not that intimidating if you think about it.
it's really not. It's really not an intimidating number. I know it takes some math getting there. And those of you, I encourage you to rewatch this video if you didn't get it, because we do walk through everything. It might make more sense to you the second time around. But what we're ending up with, and what I'm trying to get the point across to, is that even with some I'm not going to say that $15,000 a month is a lofty goal. I mean, that's kind of a humble amount to need every month. But that number coming in every month, that's no slouch number, and it's really achievable. It's a house a month of cash flow, okay? So that is one of the really nice things about how this works. Now, before we get anywhere else, we've got a question. What's going on?
I have a question.
You have a question.
So I wasn't getting to pay a whole lot of attention back there, but we're talking about inflation in 10 years and what your cash flow is going to need and be in 10 years, and you're backing in out of that, right?
Correct.
Are you taking into consideration inflation's effect on your rents, your property values, and everything else? Because if inflation is going up, your rental values are probably going up as well. So are we adding in a bunch of extra houses that we are not necessarily needing? Because if inflation is going up, rent's probably going up as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's semi-possible in that realm. Mm-hmm. What I'm basically saying is that our cash flow is $350 a month. I didn't adjust for inflation on cash flow. So your cash flow in 10 years may actually be $400 a month. Mm-hmm. The reason why I'm not doing that is A, that's a lot more calculations to throw in there. But B, and more importantly, if you account for this and we're actually making more money per property, you're going to be doing even better than you know what I mean? Our goal to hit what we want right here, not accounting for rents going up, is still very achievable. Now, when we're talking about seller financing, not only are the rents going to be going up, but people's mortgages that you might be taking over will also be going up. And that's something that I can't account for. Is I don't know in 10 years, will 350 still be the number that's the average cash flow or not? I feel like it's very conservative to say that it would be, but that's kind of what we're going off of. Now, something that we don't have time to go into today, and we might pick up next week, would be if we're going to take this model, which I'm saying we're purchasing with owner financing, we're selling with owner financing, that's only, if I start buying houses today, I've got a 30-year clock on that, okay? So in 10 years when I want to retire, that house that I bought today is actually only going to have 20 years left on it. Well, the end of the story, which I want you guys to tune in for next week, is that through this model, through having that put together, you're actually going to be able to pay off a ton of these notes early and have a lot of free and clear properties that are making you money every month. And then we're going to leverage those properties into loans to get you some rentals that are going to last a long time, or to buy an apartment complex or something along those lines.
Yeah, because I was just thinking as you were talking, like that first year, yes, I'm only getting $3,000 to $4,000 in cash flow, but that's $3,000 to $4,000 that if I'm not using it as retirement right now, I can either A, live off that, not really, but kinda, but put that towards. I'm doing that wrong. It'd be $3,000 to $4,000 a month actually, because whatever, it doesn't matter. If you have 10 houses, by the end of the year, you're getting You're getting like.
It'd be $3,000 a month at the end of the year.
Right, but that's $40,000 annually that you could apply towards another house, could apply towards anything else.
Right, so we'll talk about
the momentum.
Exactly, we'll talk about the momentum and the accelerations, the hyper accelerations you can do of your notes to get these things paid off so that you can have either free and clear properties making you a bunch of money, but then again, leveraging that into buying some stuff that's going to last more than 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll get into next week. But guys, this is really exciting stuff when you start looking at all the really evaluating the numbers, really evaluating what it is that you need to have done. It's not that bad. Even if you've got some decently lofty goals, even if you're talking about staffing and getting an office space and all that kind of stuff, it turns out to be fairly easy in the long run. Okay, so maybe you don't have your 10 house year this year, but like I said, man, my down years, I'm buying 18, 20 houses a year, So you might make up for it in another year. I bought 75 houses a couple of years ago. Well, that afforded me some leeway on some of these other goals that I needed. So, again, I encourage you guys to keep hitting us with questions.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me as we're wrapping up, and if you do have final questions, drop them in now, because we are wrapping up. The biggest takeaway for me is retirement through this model, through real estate, is really not as daunting as people may think it is.
Right.
Because again, even at 10 houses, 14 houses a year, I mean, think about if you're wholesaling, how many houses are you buying a month? Like we know got Henry, he's picking up 2 to 3 houses a month, and he has a full-time job. So I mean, if you're able to do it full-time, and maybe you do have a job, whatever, I don't know. But if you're able to pick up and just secure one of those houses, I mean, you could retire like in your 40s, in your 50s or whatever.
Absolutely, totally achievable. So you've chosen the right realm to go. I do want to encourage you, like this video, share this video.
Yes, please.
Give Propelio some props. Check out CreativeCashFlow.com. I do training, personal mentoring, academy, all that kind of good stuff. Because we want this education out there. We want you to get to the goals that you want. That's the whole mentality of what Propelio is putting together right here. Is Propelio said, look, there's not enough people actually helping people achieve their goals. Let's offer that out there. And that's what we're doing here. That's why this kind of stuff is free. This is stuff that normally people would pay a lot of money to a business consultant to sit down and figure out. And you're getting this for free, so give them some props, that kind of stuff. If we have any final questions, please throw them in there. We're wrapping up here. And
well, I will say this. If you are local to DFW, today is Wednesday. We are having our little mastermind here in the studio. So drop me a PM or a DM, however you want to call it. And I'll get you the address. So we're doing that here. And then also, if you're in San Antonio, or if you're in Austin or the surrounding area of San Antonio, we are having a meetup on February 26th. We're really excited about that. Yeah. So if you haven't got details on that, just look it up. You're going to get hit in the face with as much as we're planning on doing.
Yeah,
there.
he's really throwing a bunch of stuff out.
Yeah. So, any other Grant drops knowledge bombs? So I guess that's it, man. Thanks for the love, guys. Oh wait. Oh yeah. Anyway, we have a quick commercial that we're going to put up for you. Hopefully it does well. This is the first time we tried it, so we'll see. But until next time, we'll see you next week. Grant, thanks again.
Thank you.
We'll see you next one.
All right, talk to you later.
Hey everybody out there in the San Antonio market, have you gone to REIA meetups just to be upsold and never get any information? Are you ready to go to a REIA where you get to network and enjoy being around other real estate investors? Are you ready for a REIA with an open bar so you can kick back and relax and enjoy talking about what you do for a living? Do you want to go to a REIA and actually get information and not be sold information? If that's what you're looking for, you need to come to the San Antonio Real Estate Investor Meetup that we're putting on February 26th. We are going to have the open bar sponsored by SF Lending. They are going to come in and they are setting up an open bar. Come back, relax, enjoy. You're going to have a buffet of food. If you're hungry and you want to get something to eat, come on by. We're going to have an investor speaking on foreclosure that has done hundreds of foreclosures to tell you from beginning to end how to invest in foreclosures. And this is not an upsell. This is a start out with A, do B, and you'll get C type of education. This is going to be a full-on educational class with no upsells. If you want to be a part of this, make sure to subscribe in the link below. This will be the inaugural launch of the Propelio Real Estate Investor Meetup in San Antonio. If you've never heard of a Propelio, make sure to go out and Google us. We're all over the internet. We've got a lot of content that we're providing to people. That's Propelio. Make sure to check us out, and I look forward to seeing you there.